I didn't feel like something was going to happen to him. I felt like he was going to be okay. And I remember my mom telling me he's going to be so special. He's got, you know, like God has a special plan for him in his life. And, you know, I named him Aiesha, which is a great name. And his dad's middle name was Matthew, so I named him Aiesha Matthew. And, you know, I had him. He got stronger in the hospital. I came home. I went to a pregnancy school. I went there with Aiesha, and I got kind of caught up on all the credits that I had been jacking around, ditching, all that kind of stuff through, you know, I got pregnant in my sophomore year. So I went back to the pregnancy school, and then when you only can stay there so long. And, you know, during that time, I was trying to work things out with my son's father, because I never had my parents together. So, like, I always wanted to have a family. Like, I didn't want, even though I had people who loved me and, you know, step-parent that loved me, I wanted my kids to have their parents together. And so, despite the things that, you know, the things that he had done to me, I tried to look past it, and I tried to, you know, stay together and work things out for Aiesha's sake. And I ended up going back to my junior year, back to high school, and I was doing really good for a while. I was at home with my mom, living with my mom, and my son's dad was living somewhere else, but we were trying to work things out. And, you know, I was kind of getting better grades in school. I matured a lot from going through that, especially from where I was at. And what ended up happening is I just kind of started slipping in the fact that, you know, I wasn't getting to school on time, and, you know, my first class I'd never go to, and by this time, you know, my mom started getting a little bit closer to God, and she didn't want me, you know, I was still underage. I was like, by this time I had just turned 17, and I was still, you know, not an adult yet, and my mom didn't want me to live with my father's side unless we were married, even though I know she didn't want me to marry him, you know, but it was the only way where she felt right to let me go. And so I felt like I had no choice. I felt like, you know, if I have to give this a go for my child, I'm going to have to do this, you know. And, you know, looking back, like, we both didn't love each other the way we, you know, people should to be married. And, you know, we got in a huge fight the day we went and got our marriage license, and, you know, he didn't want to show up the day we were supposed to get married. We got married in court, and my dad had to go get him. But anyways, I ended up marrying him, and I moved away. I moved with him to his family, and, you know, the long story short is we didn't stay together that long. You know, he cheated on me again, and he was, you know, had a severe alcohol and drug problem, and he started getting a little physical with me, and I just didn't want that. By this time, I had finally had this man that I wanted for so long. I had this baby, and now I realized that I didn't want him, you know. And that's why I always try, you know, with my kids now, I try not to hold things too far. I mean, I know where my mom came from, and I understand, and especially now that I'm walking with God, but, like, it was like when I finally had him, I didn't want him. I just could see who he was, and I just did not want him, and I left him. And, you know, I felt like I was on the right grounds of leaving him. You know, like I said, he cheated on me, and he started getting a little bit abusive, and, you know, I felt like, you know, things had happened where I was, you know, supposed to come, we were supposed to get our own place. And I was coming back out here to Denver to get my my furniture and stuff, and he got pulled over and got arrested, and he had like 7 warrants. And now looking back now that I know God, and the thing he's done in my life. I could see his hand, you know, in my life. And, you know, it was like he stopped that life for me in that, you know, in that time. But, you know, we came back here, and my mom was there for me, but I started having some problems with my stepdad now. He, you know, didn't want me to, he wanted me to get my act together, so he was a little bit hard on me, so I moved out, and I'm out on my own, 18 years old, with a 2-year-old. And, you know, I was proud of myself. You know, I was taking care of me and my son. I still needed a lot of help from my mom. She was watching him for me while I worked at night. She worked during the day. And I started getting, you know, lonely. And, you know, I always would have some kind of guy around me sometime, you know, or go out, or, you know, my best friend, and she had, at the time, her relationship at the time, like, seemed like perfect. Like, her boyfriend was like the perfect guy. And, you know, so you're like the third wheel, and you have this kid, and, you know, and I was young. I was only 18, and I had a kid young, and I started kind of going a little bit wild in that sense of partying and going out and drinking. And my mom always had my son, and you know, my mom and my son have a really tight bond because she helped me so much with him. And so, you know, I was just kind of going wild. That's what I always call it. That was like where I kind of went crazy, because I had kind of grown up quite quickly. So, you know, but up to this point, I've, you know, lost my virginity young. I was a teenage mom. I was married. I was divorced. And I met my next relationship, my next serious relationship that I had in my life. I met him, and didn't start off good at all. Don't know what I was thinking. With this guy, I was physically attracted to this guy, very much so, and it kind of blinded me in my common sense of, don't go through this again, don't put yourself in these situations again, learn from what you just went through. You have a kid now. Anything like that, I was kind of just like blinded by him and my physical attraction to him this time, not in the sense that I couldn't have him. It was in the sense of, I was just physically attracted to him, and I was willing to do anything to be with this guy. And so that's just like how me and him started out. It was, you know, more of a physical relationship, and you know, some of the signs started popping up of him, you know, leaving, and phone calls, and just other girls, him always saying, oh, they're just friends, this and that. And you know, I ended up, this time I ended up, you know, cheating on him during our relationship, because I knew he cheated on me, and I was just tired of being treated that way. And you know, he didn't like that, but you know, you're young, and you make mistakes, and you do those things, and it was a get back game. But you know, then we would try to work it out. I was with him for like 2 years. So around when I was 19, I wanted another baby, and I don't know why I was even thinking like that, because I had this beautiful child, my son Isaiah, and you know, I'm trying to take care of him and being a good parent, you know, and I don't know why, but I just had this desire to have another kid, and I wanted a girl so bad. And you know, this guy that I was with at this time, he was like, yeah, let's have a baby together, you know, I want to have a baby. And I'm like, okay, you know, so we actually tried to get pregnant. And I did. I got pregnant, and you know, he knew everything I went through with my ex. He knew that what I went through with my pregnancy. He knew how hurt I was. And I had been through a lot with him, you know, and just being with him. And, you know, I was just like, I don't want to have a baby again with somebody that's not going to be there for me. And he's like, oh, no, you know, we're going to be a family, and I love Isaiah, and we're going to have this baby. And, you know, so sure enough, you know, I get pregnant, and not too long after, you know, he's cheating on me, he's not coming around, and I'm like freaking out. Like, I was like crazy. Like, I was freaking out, calling him all the time, freaking out, like screaming at him, like, why are you doing this to me? You know what I went through, you know that I didn't want to go through this again. Why are you doing this to me? You know, we purposely got pregnant, you know, why are you doing this to me? You know, and I was just like really angry, and I was upset. And, you know, I started working again because I had moved back home. I moved back home, and then I had found out I was pregnant, and I was going to go to college. But I found out I was pregnant, and ironically, I didn't get into the school I was trying to get into. And then so I went back. I started working again, you know, because now I'm going to have 2 kids. And I started working at JCPenney's, and I came home one day, and I was like 4.5 months, and I got out of my car. And when I got out of my car, like, when I get pregnant, like, I have a really weak bladder, so sometimes I think, like, oh, I just peed my pants a little bit. But I got out of my car, and I kind of felt that way, and I went inside, and my uncle had came over to my mom's house to visit us and stuff, and I was gonna go in there and go to the bathroom, and when I, you know, went to pull down my underwear, there was blood everywhere, and I was like floored. Like, I just started crying. I was like, what the heck? And I was like, there's just blood everywhere. And I started screaming for my mom, and my mom came in, and sorry. Okay, another composure. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I'm back. I was bleeding, and so my mom kind of wrapped me up, and we went to the hospital, and I was just crying because, you know, like, I knew that I was like, man, you know, I'm going through this again, and I'm gonna be alone, but I still wanted this baby. And so I'm thinking, like, I'm thinking I lost this child, and I'm like, you know, I was disappointed. I was let down because I wanted this baby, and you know, I was like, I can't go out getting pregnant again. You know, that's not the right thing to do. You know, and so, anyways, like, I was at the hospital, and they asked me, you know, did you pass any tissue or anything? And I was like, no, you know, I just been bleeding, you know, really bad. And the doctor right away, she's just like, kind of was like nasty towards me. She's like, well, you lost your baby. You had a miscarriage, and since you didn't pass any tissue, then you're going to have to do a D&C, which is basically like an abortion, because the baby didn't come out. And I was totally freaked out about even being put in that position, because I was so against abortion. I was so like, would never do that, and I was like just horrified that I was going to have to go through something like that, because I just didn't want to. And you know, so I was like, you know, there's really nothing I could do. I had to make an appointment for the next day to go in. And so, you know, my mom took me home, and I don't really remember that night, but I remember, you know, going in the next day, and I remember, like, getting an ultrasound, and this lady's like, oh, the baby looks good, and this and that, and I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, the baby's moving around, and I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I thought I lost the baby. And she's like, you lost the baby? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I was bleeding yesterday, like, I was having a miscarriage. And she was like, no, your baby's alive.